Alright everyone, today we'll be going over graphing in R. So we'll be using the data set for assignment 2, chapter 4 in the book, and you'll be making 3 graphs, a scatter plot, a histogram, and a bar plot. And we're going to do each one a little bit differently for Excel, so try to follow closely. So for starters, the scatter plot we're going to make will be the quickest. You just highlight the 2 columns that you want. We'll do exam and anxiety. It'll be the same as in R. And insert, charts, scatter plot, bam. Scatter plot's done. There's a couple extra things in the homework that we ask you to do. X-axis, Y-axis labels, trend line, change the title up. Most of those you can do from the chart element button, and just adds pretty much everything that you need. So in addition to that, that's pretty much the scatter plot. Next is the bar plot. Now, while you can do it in a similar fashion to the scatter plot with the insert chart button, we're going to do this one a little bit differently. We're going to make a pivot chart out of it. And so you have your data and hit the pivot chart, and Excel will pretty much just pick up what the data set you want to use is. So cancel that. Make sure that it knows that we're in the bar plot sheet. So when we hit pivot chart, it automatically picks up the 3 columns that we have: gender, film, and arousal. So we hit OK, and we get a couple of different little pop-ups. The most important one is this pivot chart fields over here. So you click arousal, you click film, and you click gender. Actually, yeah, that's fine. So it creates your graph and it creates a little table for you, but there's some things that aren't right about this table. So for example, we wanted male and female here, not Bridget Jones's Diary and Memento. So you can come down here and just drag and drop, and it fixes it accordingly. Also, I don't know if you guys have really looked at it yet, but this is the sum of arousal, what's appearing in the graph. So it goes from 0 to 300. Actually, we want the mean arousal for each of the groups in each of the independent variables. So in order to do that, you actually want to come up here to design, format. Nope, it's definitely an analyze. Okay, so click an active field. We want to click arousal. Summarize. So sum of arousal pops up in active field. And when we click field settings, we have a bunch of different options: count, average, max, min, product. And these are all different things that change with the data. So we want the average, which is the mean. And although the shapes of the graphs don't really change, the values do. So now we have the actual means of the graphs, and you can tell by what's in the table up here and move it around. Similar to the scatter plot, there are various additional points we want you to add to the chart, and they can be found in the chart element section. Now, the last chart is the histogram, and this one's done a third way. So recall the data analysis tool pack that is on Moodle. If you haven't already downloaded it, the instructions are on Moodle. So you're going to want to click that and get the histogram. So hitting OK, you have 2 ranges: input range and bin range. Input range is your actual data set, so the observed variables from whatever your output is. So we're just going to highlight all of these 811 cases and insert them. Bin range is how finely you want to divide up the data, essentially. So with bin range, we can do 0 to 4, 0 to 4.5, or 0 to 4.5 and 2.5 increments. Now, I made each one of these myself. I physically typed each of them in, but you're going to have to do that yourself. Just as an example, if we do 0 to 4, insert, make sure that chart output is checked and new worksheet is selected. the histogram will appear in a new worksheet, and it'll tell you the frequency that each of those numbers appears. Now, this is a pretty terrible histogram. It kind of looks more like a bar plot. That's because we have such finely looked at data. That's a weird way to say it. Basically, the data has a couple decimal points, and we aren't really looking at decimal points. We're looking at whole numbers, so all of them got pushed into their closest whole number category. Everything got rounded up. Now, when we do the same thing, but with actual decimal points added, so replacing the bin range with this one, we'll get a slightly more histogram looking thing. It adds more bins that the data can fall into. It actually looks like a normal distribution, or at least it's starting to, compared to this one, which is kind of just, it's there, but not as obvious. Now, when we do the third column, which this is not required in your homework, this is just to show you how it works. I'm going to highlight, hit OK, hit OK, and now we have the histogram with a lot of variability because we finely tuned the bins that the variables can go in. This more bin always appears. It's basically if you have an outlier that isn't in any of your selected bins. So this value is the maximum value. I think it's like 20 or something in the data set. I'm not sure what it is, but it basically tells you that there's an outlier there. And so for your assignment, you're going to want to play around with these a bit more, take some stuff off, put some stuff in, change some titles and things like that. So that's how you make a couple of different graphs in R. If you have any questions, you can send an email to me or Vinay, or use the comments forum that should be live now.